Hello, friends. So, my name is Dr. Ashish Goyal, and I'm a professor of medicine. Welcome to this channel on learning biostatistics. So, in this particular session today, we are going to talk a little bit more about how to handle Stata. So, if you've been watching the videos on Stata previously and you have been following my channel, you would know now how the Stata interface looks like, and you would also know how to import data into your working memory in Stata. So taking on further from here, I want to introduce to you at this point of time further about the Stata interface. And if you notice, there are the usual menu options which are there on the top. You have the file menu, you have the edit menu, you have the view menu, you have a data menu. You also have a graphics menu, which will help you make graphs. We have a statistics menu, which lists out all the different statistical tests that Stata will allow you to engage in. There is a user menu, and there is the usual Windows menu and the help menu. So the concept that we are going to talk about in this particular session is what is called as a do.file editor. So it's a good idea to learn about a do.file editor and start using it as soon as you start working with Stata. And a do.file editor is nothing but another window which will open in your Stata, and it will help you write all the commands or record all the commands that you would want to keep in your Stata while you are working with Stata. It will just keep a record of all the commands, and that ways you will be able to run and execute these commands every time in a quick manner without getting into a too much delay. So let's see, we had this command which was about importing a working data sheet or an Excel sheet into Stata working memory. So I can just copy this command from here by using Control C, and I could just paste this into my do file. Now this do file usually begins with a command clear all, which will clear all the previous data set or everything that is in the working memory of Stata, and it will just give you a clean working memory which will not interfere with any new commands that you are writing in this do file. So once I start this do file, I start with this the command clear all, which clears everything. And I can just paste this command, which I had just now used, and I was trying to import the data into the Stata working memory. Now, at this point, let's save this do file, and let me save it just on my desktop at the moment to make it easier for you to understand. And let's try and name this as demo. Let's call this file as demo. So I'm saving this file as demo.do on my desktop, and I just click save. So what this does is that when I close this, and let's say I also am going to quit Stata, and I clear everything in Stata memory now. And next time I want to import on that same file, I want to import that same data, and I want to import the same data set into my working memory. I don't need to search for that file which I first imported in. What I can just do is go to my desktop, identify the demo file that I had just done, and open it. So once I open the demo file or the do file, I can just click on do, that's execute. So once I click on execute, it will execute the do file commands which are recorded in this do file. And let's see what happens. So once I click do, what it has done is it has imported the data set from the particular worksheet or Excel sheet that I was working on. And now I have everything here. So it's a good idea to make a do file and keep a track and record of all the commands that you give while working with Stata. Let's come back to the Stata window, and here let me try and do some more commands. So let's try and understand what this data set that we have with us, what does this data set talk about? So let me try and give it a command, which is codebook. Now the codebook command will tell me the details about all the variables that are in my data set. So if you see, it has just given me all the data, all the variables that are existing in my data set, and it gives me details of all these variables. So timestamp, I have a variable called timestamp. I have a variable called name. I have a variable called age, which is a numeric variable, and it has got a range from 21 to 67. It has got 17 unique values, and there is one missing value out of 28. Then it tells me the mean of the age, it tells me the standard deviation, and it tells me the percentiles. So it has listed all the different variables that are there. It has given me the types of variables that are there, and it tells me how many missing values are there, what is the range. So it gives me a kind of a fair idea about what this data set is looking like and what this data set holds. Another important and interesting command to work with is describe. So once I write describe, it will tell me a description of all the variables in my data set. It tells me there is a variable called timestamp, there is a variable called name, there is a variable called age, and there are the variable labels which it has picked up from the Excel sheet directly, and it has got the names of all these variables which are written here. So one was the codebook command that we learned. Second was this describe command. And the third command that I'm going to talk about in this session itself is also this command called summarize. So if I just write summarize, it will summarize all the variables that are there. Here you can see it has summarized age. So it's usually best for variables which are continuous or numerical variables, and it is easy for Stata to summarize them. It has not been able to summarize all the other variables because they have string values or alphabetical values, which Stata or any other statistical software fails to understand. Now, summarize command can also be written as SUM, which is a short form for summarize, and it will do the same output. It will give you the same output. So we learned about 3 different commands in this session. One was codebook, one was describe, one was summarize. So if I want to do these as a regular feature in any data set that I am doing, I could just copy these commands by copying them from here, and then I could paste them into the do file. So if you remember, we had this do file open, and I could just paste all these commands into the do file. So now what will happen is that next time I want to work on this data set and run the same commands, then I will not need to run these commands again, and I could just tell Stata to execute this do file, and it will execute the do file in the background, and it will run all these commands at once without me having to give these commands again and again. You might remember the commands and type them here, but there would be an easier way. You could just go to the statistics, you could ask for summaries, you could go to the data, you could describe the data. So if you come to data and ask it to describe data and describe data in memory or in a file, so let's do this. What Stata does is opens up a dialog box, and it will now describe the data in the memory. So just let's say describe data in the memory. And once I click submit, so it has described all the data. So this is exactly what we were doing when we had written describe command. Here again, Stata has given you the describe command. So to get the describe command, I could type describe here in the command window, or I could get describe from the drop down menu, going into data, describing data, and describe data in memory or in a memory file. That will bring in the describe command again, and then I can easily run the describe command if I do not remember how to run the describe command. If you want to describe the data contents, which is the codebook command, I could just click on this. And again, it will open up a dialog box, and I can describe particular variables, which I can enter here if I want, or I can describe all the variables and just leave everything blank here. And once I click submit, it has taken up the codebook command. You see, here it has appeared. The last command that we used was codebook in the history window, and it has just run the codebook command all over again. So I could have run the codebook command by typing in command here, or I could have found the codebook command by the drop down menu. So whatever commands that we have are available to us directly if we remember them, or if we don't remember them, then we can go into the drop down menus here and run those commands from the drop down menu. So it gives the ease to remember commands as well as to work with drop down menus. But whatever way you are doing it, I would suggest that you always keep a record of all the commands that you have given in a do file, and always save this do file, which will help you to kind of remember and record all the commands that you had given. And next time when you analyze the same data set, it can just run or execute the do file, and you will get all the exact same commands running, and the data will be analyzed in no time at all. This completes my first session on do.files, and I would strongly recommend that you work with do.files and save all the commands, all the work that you do in do.files from the very beginning. If you're in that habit, it will always be extremely helpful, because when you are cleaning the data or changing the values or adding to the data, and you have a saved do file on your computer, then working the same commands takes just a few seconds, and Stata will do exactly the same analysis again if you had to change just one value somewhere, or you had to add one observation to the data set. So I hope again this session on do file was helpful, and thanks for stopping by.